Is This a Great Game or What? With the Hall of Famer Tim Kirkshin. I'm his son, Jeff Kirkshin, and we are on location today on a beautiful Maryland humid July day. We are at Povich Field, home of the Bethesda Big Train, Dad, and this place is special to you.
Right. This is the Cal Ripken College Summer League, okay? And this is where college kids from all over the country come play here. They live at people's houses during their time here. They work at camps and they play at night. It's a great thing. And this ballpark, Jeff, means so much to me because I spent all of my childhood. This was my second home. I played a million games on the little fields down here and the big field here. When I wasn't playing, as a little kid, I was watching the big guys play. In fact, Jeff, I used to stand right out there while I was watching the game, and as soon as there was a foul ball, there were a bunch of kids, usually me and Matt, your uncle. We would run after the ball, and they would give us a dime for every foul ball that we brought back because, there were not an unlimited supply.
Right, they couldn't just get more.
Yeah, balls went flying out all the time, routinely would hit cars and everything else. But, and this is where I really, really learned about baseball, was watching the older guys play in this ballpark, and it was absolutely great. And I used to broadcast. Well, I used to be the public address guy. Uncle Matt and I would do the public address for the Industrial League. The older guys beyond college. There were former major leaguers, former pro players that played here, and we would do the public address. So now, I remember one team that played here was called Atlantic Masonry, okay? And it was a famous team that played here. So I would say leading off for Atlantic Masonry, number 2, Matt Kirkshin, or whatever, whoever it was. But I kept calling him, since I was only 12 years old, I kept saying Atlantic Masonry, okay? Because I didn't know the difference. So Jello Lagos, who was the manager of the team, he comes over to me, I'm 12 years old, and he goes, "Son, you're doing a great job with this, but it's not Atlantic Masonry, it's Atlantic Masonry." So I learned something about the rock and mortar business when I was 12 years old. It was absolutely
That's better than calling them the mercenaries, which should be completely different.
Right. And of course,
I was going to say, we got to talk about who's sitting behind us right
I'm
here.
burying the lead here. This, of course, is Walter Johnson. Did I ever tell you I went to Walter Johnson High School?
Yeah.
This is the greatest pitcher of all time. Walter Johnson High School is about 3 miles from here, and that's where I went to high school, of course. And here Walter Johnson is speaking with Shirley Povich, one of the great baseball writers, one of the great sports writers of all time. He's in the Hall of Fame as a baseball writer. And miraculously, 3 years ago, I joined the same club as Shirley Povich. You have no idea what a thrill that was. I spoke to him many, many times late in his career. He wrote until he was 90 years old. So we have these incredible statues right behind us. Shirley Povich interviewing Walter Johnson. How great is that?
It's great, but it's also sad to think this will be the closest we ever get to interviewing Walter Johnson, who, far beyond any other player, has the most mentions on this podcast. Well, it has to be, right?
And again, Jeff, I have such a connection to this place. I've already explained all the games I played, watched, and umpired here. And I have this connection to Shirley Povich, but going to Walter Johnson High School, it was more than that, Jeff. I've told you this before. Walter Johnson died on December 10th, 1946, and I was born on December 10th, 1956. So 10 years to the day that Walter Johnson died, I was born. He is buried in Rockville, not far from here, which is a town over from where we live. He used to live at times in Germantown, one town away. And, of course, he was the greatest pitcher in the history of baseball, the greatest Washington senator ever, and did so much in the community because he was way more than a baseball player. He was just a part. He took part in, local government, and he made sure people had what they needed. He was an amazing man, not just an amazing baseball player.
We have something framed in our basement. Our basement was formerly completely themed baseball until it was themed vintage furniture by my mom, who switched everything out to make her business. But in there, if you remember, Dad, we got you as a gift, it was, I believe, a receipt of a check that Walter Johnson cashed or put into his account in a Germantown bank.
Yes.
Which was interesting. And when I was like 16, I tried to cash it, and it didn't work. I guess it's more for show, or they don't accept checks that are 100 years old.
Let's not forget our bobblehead arrangement here.
Yep.
We've got on this side, we've got the bobblehead of Walter Johnson. Next to him is Brian Dozier, former Major League second baseman, hit a ton of home runs. He played here.
Yep.
And, of course, this is my bobblehead, which, as we all know, is actual size.
I am not a crook. It looks a little bit like Nixon.
It does. The
No,
gray hair
it
is
looks
really
great.
unnecessary
No,
here,
Dad,
Jeff.
that was a touch of gray. Now we're glad that was the year you got the bobblehead, not as much with your power alleys.
Right. Well, our grandchildren, our grandson, Carson, he has taken at least 5 of the bobbleheads and just decapitated me. Arms and legs have been taken off.
Out of love, though.
Of course,
let's say
I
he wants
don't
to cuddle
care.
with it. Although, the one thing with this bobblehead, Dad, lacking the ear hair. It needs a little more ear hair to make it accurate. You know?
Look, I think the gray hair is plenty and unnecessary. Next to me, to my right, is Shirley Povich, the great sports writer. And next to him is Cal Ripken Sr., who I covered when he was a coach with the Orioles, of course, late 70s, early 80s. And then when he was the manager of the team, 87 through the early 1988. Yes.
This is what this place is all about. I had a number of birthday parties here, including, I think it was my 12th birthday, Dad, and we sat in the awning that actually is behind us right now, and it was such a cool memory because this place makes baseball accessible for everyone. Listen, nothing is better than going to a Major League Baseball game, but I'd make the argument is it's even cooler to see these college baseball players in their summers off, staying with people in the area, Dad, and working with the kids at the camps, and then playing on this field and getting work in, and then eventually, hopefully, living the dream of becoming a Major League Baseball player. We're going to talk to Bruce Adams here shortly.
Right. We have buried the lead here, Jeff. Bruce Adams is the reason that all of this works. Bruce Adams is almost 10 years older than me. He looks 10 years younger than me. He does this out of the goodness of his heart, basically. He's a volunteer, essentially, running all of this. He got this stadium built. He put Povich Field together. He runs the Big Train here, and the profits from all this go to building fields for kids in Montgomery County and around the Maryland area. I mean, is there a better thing that can be done? Bruce Adams is the hero of all of this, more than Walter Johnson, more than Shirley Povich, more than anyone. If it weren't for Bruce Adams, this place simply doesn't happen, and we will talk to him later.
Yeah, and when we pulled up, I saw he had a little blower. He was cleaning up mulch. That's the kind of thing that it takes to be successful, right? You're cleaning up the mulch, but you're also greeting the Hall of Famer Tim Kirkshin to do his podcast today. I think that is what makes successful people, is being willing. It's like Walt Disney always used to say, like, Walt Disney would walk around Disney World picking up trash. He's Walt Disney, for goodness sake, but you have to be able to do those things in order to have a successful company. And clearly, if you're ever in Bethesda, Maryland, in the summer, you've got to go to a Big Train baseball game.
And the players that have come through here who have played in the big leagues, we already told you about Brian Dozier. There have been so many more, including Hunter Renfroe, who hit a ton of homers, and the other Hunter, Hunter Brown, who just made the All-Star team and as of the other day was leading the American League in ERA. So great players come through here. Really, really good players play here every summer, and it's a wood bat league because it gets them ready for pro ball. These are college players here. They're from all over the country, and I speak to them once a year, and it just does my heart good to talk to a bunch of kids who've got that hungry look in their eyes because all they want to do is play pro ball and someday get to the big leagues.
All right, Dad, we're going to talk a lot more about where we're coming live from, but let's get into the takeaways of Major League Baseball.
Jeff, the takeaways every week now has to start with dominant, overpowering pitching, because that's what we see on a nightly basis every single night. It's unbelievable. Jacob Mizorowski of the Brewers the other night faced the world champion Dodgers, pitched 6 innings, and struck out 12. So the only other rookie to strike out 12 in a game against the defending world champions was Jim Bibby in 1973. nobody has a chance against Jacob Misiorowski and half of the pitchers in the big leagues right now because of the velocity that we see. And when you take all the pitchers that pitched in that game that Misiorowski started for the Brewers, their average fastball velocity was 99.1. That's what hitters are facing these days. And, Jeff, I'm telling you, we're coming close to a dilemma in the big leagues that hitters have virtually no chance when a great pitcher like Paul Skeens or Jacob deGrom locates with this amazing stuff. And I talked to 20 different hitters when I was in San Diego, Rangers and Padres, and they all acknowledge the same thing. This is the hardest hitting environment they've ever seen. It's not even close. In fact, Jake Berger, who, as you said, is in every single episode that we do on this podcast, he told me, he's been in the league 5 years, he goes, the difference in the stuff we see now compared to 5 years ago is absolutely night and day. And he said, I'm just wondering, where is the pitching going to be 5 years from now? I mean, where's the velocity going to be there, Jeff?
Well, Dad, one of our members of our family who listens to the show messaged us, greatgamerwhat.com, if you ever want to message us and get in touch, and said, Tim, is this not the time for the knuckleball and the off-speed pitcher to be successful? Because things are the velocity is so high right now to have a guy that just totally throws everybody off. Why aren't we having that?
Right. Well, we might, but as Charlie Huff once told me, great knuckleball pitcher, when I asked him, Charlie, and I was like 12 years old when I asked him, I said, Charlie, why don't more people throw a knuckleball? And Charlie's the nicest man in the world, but he yelled at me. He goes, well, why don't more people throw 100 miles an hour? It's really hard to do, unless, of course...
Well, we need a catcher that can catch it, too.
Right.
Doug Mirabelli isn't playing Major League Baseball anymore. In fact, I kind of went down a little bit of a rabbit hole recently. Do you remember when Doug Mirabelli obviously played for the Red Sox, then he didn't, and they're getting ready to play a Sunday night baseball game at Fenway Park against the Yankees? It's Johnny Damon's return to Fenway after the trade that sent him to the evil empire in New York. And the Red Sox are saying, we're dead. We're dead. I can't remember who was catching the knuckleballer before. Tim Wakefield, of course. But he had like 10 passed balls in 7 games, and they're going to lose this game on Sunday Night Baseball because they don't have somebody who can catch him. So they trade back for Doug Mirabelli,
who is in a cab trying to get to Fenway, and he's telling the cab driver, you got to drive faster. I'm catching Tim Wakefield tonight. And he barely made it to the game, put on a uniform, and caught the knuckleball. That's how hard it is for a knuckleball to be thrown and to be caught. But back to the original statement, Jeff. I wrote a story this spring for ESPN.com that the most important pitch in the game today is the changeup.
Right.
And a lot of guys have an elite changeup, including Tarek Skubal. Because if you can throw a changeup at 86 miles an hour and you throw a fastball at 98 miles an hour, the hitter has to guess one or the other. And he can't sit on the changeup because he'll never get to 98. And if he looks for 98, it's going to be really hard to get to 86. So that's why knuckleballers may make a comeback. But I repeat, Jeff, it's a really, really hard pitch to throw. But everything is difficult for a hitter today in baseball, and it's getting close to the time where we're going to have to come up with some sort of solution as to what to do, because we're getting close to 1968 days where they said no one could get a hit anymore, and then they lowered the mound in 1969, and back came the offense.
I always wondered what it would have happened had they never done that, and then a guy named Randy Johnson started pitching. He would be like 7.5 feet tall up there.
Right. Totally understand. All right, the other takeaway, Jeff, is that the Blue Jays at this taping had won 10 games in a row to take a healthy lead in the American League East. And with the A's coming up this weekend, nothing against the A's, there's a chance the Blue Jays are going to roll into the All-Star break with a pretty healthy lead in the American League East. Now, I did not see this coming, but
nobody did.
But the American League East has made no sense whatsoever this year, Jeff. The Orioles were supposed to be really good, and they haven't been all year. The Red Sox were supposed to be really good, and then they stopped being, and now they're making a little comeback here. The Yankees had a 6.5 game lead. They've lost their lead, obviously. And the Rays are a team that, really made a run. Now they've hit a bit of a slow point. So American League 8 makes no sense whatsoever, and that's why I think the Blue Jays have a chance to hang around and maybe even win the division, because really 4 teams still have a chance to win that thing.
And speaking of the Blue Jays, Dad, we are going to do the Best of All Tim. We do it every single Thursday episode where you pick a different team and you name the greatest player to play in that franchise. And today, the Blue Jays is who we're picking because of their hot streak, and I have no idea. He told me, Dad, you told me who it was ahead of time, and I had to Google it because I'd never even heard of the name. And listen, I'm the first to admit I am not even close to as knowledgeable as probably 80 to 90% of our listeners, and of course you. But I think a lot of people will be surprised with this pick, but you're going to defend it. So
I absolutely will. All right, the last takeaway, Jeff, is that my friend Jeremy Schaap did a documentary on Jim Abbott.
Right.
Jim Abbott is one of the great untold stories in a lot of ways in the history of baseball. Jim Abbott pitched in the major leagues, as we know, without a right hand. He was a really good pitcher, had a great slider, threw a no-hitter in the big leagues, and amazingly, his first spring training, he hit a triple in an exhibition game.
It's unbelievable.
With one hand. So I saw him this spring in spring training, and I went up to him. We were talking. He's the nicest man in the world. I talked to him for 20 minutes. It was just glorious. So I said, Jim, how about that triple you hit? And he went like this. Rick Russell, sinker down. He remember the pitcher
remembered it.
And the location of the pitch when he hit a triple in a spring training game. And what we learned from this amazing documentary done by Jeremy Schaap, who, by the way, is the best journalist in the business. There's nobody better than Jeremy Schaap. Of course, he learned from his father, Dick Schaap. Dick Schaap, nobody did a better job interviewing people than Dick Schaap. And his son is second best on that list. That's how good Jeremy Schaap is. So you got to watch this. It's called Southpaw, and it details the story of Jim Abbott, which is one of the great stories you'll ever see. And I promise it'll make you cry because it's that emotional.
Yeah, he just threw out the first pitch at Yankee Stadium. I can't wait. You texted me telling me I got to watch this, so it's on my watch list, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay.
All right, Dad, jumping into the Quirkgens. What do you have for us?
Well, we had an amazing Tuesday night in the big leagues, Jeff. Lawrence Butler of the A's hit an inside-the-park home run to start the game.
Yep.
And on the same night, Patrick Bailey, the number 9 hitter and the catcher for the Giants, hit a 3-run walk-off inside the park home run. So it's the first time since 1900 that on the same day somebody hit a leadoff home run inside the park, and on the same day somebody hit a walk-off inside the park home run.
You said 1900?
Since 1900.
Well, you got to remember, and I'm not saying, I mean, that's unbelievable. That's 125 years. But remember what parks used to look like, right?
Yes.
Parks used to be what polo grounds and all these giant stadiums where inside the park home runs, I feel like, were a little more common, so to speak. So we're talking 125-year difference, and as you know, it's no secret, I root for the Phillies, being outside Philadelphia and being a Philadelphia radio show host. That was a devastating finish to that game.
Right, that was bad. But you're right, Jeff, about the ballparks and the way the game was played in the early 1900s. The all-time leader for inside-the-park homers is Hall of Famer Sam Crawford, who hit 51 inside the park homers in his career. Second on the list is Tommy Leach, who was 5'6" and 135 pounds and could really run. He hit 63 career homers. 49 of them were inside the park home runs. And get this, Jeff, in 1902, he led the league in homers with 6, and all of them were inside the park home runs. So, as far as the A's had gone 3,004 games without an inside the park homer. That's the second longest drought in Major League history without one. The Cardinals had the longest, 3,168 games without an inside-the-park homer. And Bailey is the first player to hit an inside-the-park walk-off homer since Tyler Naquin in 2016. And he's the third catcher ever to do it. A guy did it, Pat Moran in 1907, Benny Tate in 1926. So it was an amazing night for inside-the-park home runs. We've never seen anything like it.
You know, I used to do radio in Cleveland, Ohio, and if I'm not mistaken, is Tyler Naquin reinventing his career coming up as a pitcher?
I believe he is.
The Lake County Captains, who I used to do, I used to go to their games and I follow them on Facebook, and they said, we're welcoming back Tyler Naquin. And I thought, interesting. He said he played outfield here and now he's coming up as a pitcher. So how crazy is that? I saw that this morning.
And Joey Gallo's doing the same thing. Jeff, it goes back to our original point at the beginning of the podcast. Hitting is so difficult today that guys are giving up because they can't do it anymore. And now they're trying to become pitchers.
I have a quirk-chin about a homer.
Oh, good.
Justin Turner of the Chicago Cubs just hit his 200th home run. It happened in Minnesota. And here's the quirk-chin of it all, Dad. The home run was caught by a Cubs fan in Minnesota. That's quirk-chin number one. The Cubs fan was named Justin, shares the same name as him, and is also 6'6". So he's taller than Justin Turner. And when asked, how did you get the ball? He said, well, when you're sitting in the second row and you're 6'6", it's kind of easy to catch a ball coming at you. So his 200th home run, and Justin Turner got to meet up with him, shake his hand, do an exchange, probably gave him a bunch of, memorabilia and swag and signed a bunch of stuff. But how cool is that? His 200th home run caught by a Justin.
Jeff, how cool is that you know all of this? I didn't even know any of this.
I told you I had one quirk-chin for today. I'm done, guys. Thank you so much. Back to Dad.
All right. So Riley Green of the Tigers, who's a really good player, made the All-Star team. He's going to become the first Tiger to drive in 100 runs this year. He will become since Nick Castellanos in 2017. That's how long it's been since the Tigers had a 100 RBI guy. But Riley Green, at this taping, had struck out multiple times in 6 consecutive games. 6 straight games, 2 or more strikeouts. Again, Jeff, we talk about the strikeout rate being totally out of control.
Yeah.
Now, earlier this year, Luis Robert of the White Sox did it in 7 games in a row. And I remember in Aaron Judge's rookie year, 2016, he struck out. Again, this is the same Aaron Judge, just showing you how difficult the game is. He struck out 2 or more times in 9 straight games. Now, the record is 11 straight games, and that was done by Jerry Koosman, who is a pitcher.
Oh, yeah.
He pitched in the 70s for the Mets. So 11 is the record, but a bunch of guys have done 9 straight games with at least 2 strikeouts. Dave Duncan, Dave Kingman, Tyler O'Neill, Michael A. Taylor, Noah Syndergaard, another pitcher, Dick Ellsworth, another pitcher, and, of course, Aaron Judge. So this is where the strikeout rate is now. A really good player for the best team in the American League. Just finished 6 games where he struck out at least twice in each, totaling 14 strikeouts, which is more than Luis Arraez of the Padres has all season. And Riley Green, who's a really good player, did it in 6 games. Also, speaking of strikeouts, Brandon Young of the Orioles, in his 5th Major League start, had an immaculate inning in a game against the Mets. He struck out Jesse Winker, Jeff McNeil, and Luis Torrens in the 5th inning, 9 pitches, 3 strikeouts. Is that an immaculate inning for you?
Oh, no doubt. I mean,
we've been over this, Jeff. There are people I know who think it should not be an immaculate inning if somebody makes contact with the ball.
No.
Like someone hits a 500-foot foul ball down the left field line. Therefore, it is not an immaculate inning. I don't buy that at all.
That would be like saying if someone hit a 500-foot home run down, the left field line foul, it's not a perfect game because he almost hit a home run if he hit it 3 inches shorter, or to the right, I should say.
Totally agree. All right, pitchers of record in one game this week. This is a stretch of all stretch. We had Jansen Junk against Brady Singer, so we had a Junk Singer.
I had a Junk Singer. I love that. That's a good one. I saw that one, too, and I thought it was too much of a stretch, but...
No, it was too much of a stretch, Jeff.
Yeah.
But you actually saw it.
I saw it too, and that's more of a stretch than most first basemen make.
Right, I agree. And Jake Berger, who again is in every episode because we love him, because by the way, his running speed the other day was 29.3 miles per hour. Jake Berger is a rather heavy-set guy, and there are people in the league who don't think he can run. And I'm telling you, I watched him in that 3-game series. He is a almost a well above average runner. And I asked him about it, and he goes, for years, he said, in this league, people didn't know that I could run. And I got some infield hits because they thought I was some big fat guy who couldn't run. He goes, but now the book's out on me. Now they rush the ball to first because they know that I can run.
That's so funny. It's like the best kept secret. Like everyone sees him at bat, and the shortstop kind of lazies it up, and he ends up running it out.
Right, absolutely. And I asked him, of course, I always ask him about his great matchups because, he's had the Burger King matchup several times with 3 different guys named King in the big league. So he told me with a great laugh, he said, I was watching the MLB Network the other day, and they had the 5 best at bats, pitcher, batter at bats of last year. And there was no Burger King in there. And he said he called Michael King and said, what about us? How can we not be on that list?
You got to put Burger King on it.
Absolutely.
It gets a mention every other week on this show, for goodness sake.
Of course it does, yeah.
All right, Dad, on this date in baseball history, what do you have for us?
Okay, 1968, Earl Weaver was named the manager of the Orioles and became, for me, certainly one of the 5 greatest managers of all time. The things I learned from Earl Weaver, covering that team late 70s, early 80s, and then every day with Earl Weaver in 1986. Nobody taught me more about the game than Earl Weaver. And the only Earl Weaver story you need to know is that he was rough with some of his players, okay? He didn't mince words with anybody. And they were all kind of afraid of him, but they all played for him no matter what. Partly because they were afraid of him, even though he was 5'6". So Pat Kelly, one of their outfielders, decided while playing for the Orioles, while playing for Earl, that he was gonna join the ministry. So he became an ordained minister.
Wow.
Okay? So he waits, though, for the proper time to go tell Earl about this big change in his life. And he finally finds the moment, and he says to Earl, Earl, I'm going to walk with the Lord. And Earl said, I'd rather you walk with the bases loaded, which... typical response from Earl.
Dad, did you know that I'm ordained?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
How many weddings have you done?
Oh, gosh. Well, I did one wedding ceremony in which I married 5 couples at one time. So I only count that as one wedding ceremony.
Right.
In Las Vegas, we did it on the high roller, which is the big Ferris wheel ride, which I know you would never ride.
No, not a chance.
Yeah.
Scared of heights.
Way too high.
Right.
I'm even scared being this tall.
Right.
How many times have you told that joke on this show?
Right. High C. I couldn't drink it as a kid. I used to get vertigo. Yeah, that was bad.
All right, Rodney Dangerfield.
All right. 2007, speaking of inside the park homers, on this date, 2007, Ichiro hit the only inside the park home run in the history of the All-Star game.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was there. I was in the dugout. I interviewed him afterwards with an interpreter about running around the bases in an inside the park homer. It was absolutely priceless. And on this date in 1954, Andre Dawson, Hall of Famer, was born. Andre Dawson is one of the toughest, strongest players I've ever seen, a Gold Glove outfielder, hit the ball out of the ballpark. And I play... This is terribly self-serving. I played with him in the celebrity softball game in Washington. And one inning, and again, this is one of the great defensive outfielders ever. But, he's 60 years old when he's playing in the celebrity softball game. And there was a pretty high pop-up. And I run over to see if I can catch it, but he's got it, and the ball hit him in the head.
Bounced right off the top of his head.
Right off his head. So I saw his wife the next year at Cooperstown, and she said that she told him, that's it. You're not playing even softball anymore after getting hit in the head with a routine pop-up at first base in a celebrity softball game.
That's probably for the better.
Yes.
From Ozzy to Oral, my dad is going to give you the best player to wear each number from 1 to 55 in baseball history. Dad, we are on to number 27.
Yes, and for many years it was Juan Marichal, the great Dominican dandy, and then maybe there was also a Vlad Guerrero in there because he wore number 27, but I think we got to turn to Mike Trout. Mike Trout's got to be the greatest number 27 of all time. I know he's been hurt a lot lately, Jeff, and I know maybe he's not the player he used to be, but for an 8-year period, people were saying this is the best player we've ever seen. It's really closer to 10 years that he did it. He finished in the top 2 of the MVP voting the first 5 years of his career, winning the MVP twice. No one has ever finished in the top 2 of the MVP voting in his first 5 full years, even twice. He did it his first 5 years.
Wow.
That's how great Mike Trout was. He's still a really good power hitter. So, Jeff, at ESPN, Raul Ibanez used to work at ESPN, one of my favorite people ever, and he was a teammate with Mike Trout. Mike Trout's the most humble guy in the world. And Mike Trout's in BP during spring training one year, and he looks at Raul Ibanez and he says, I'm going to hit a home run in that trash can out there, which is beyond the left center field fence at the Angels spring training facility. Jeff, it wasn't a dumpster. It was like one of those big green cans.
Right.
But
so not too terribly big.
Right. And like 11 pitches later, Mike Trout hit a home run into the trash can. So I finally go to him and say, did you hit a homer into the trash can? And he's so humble, he wouldn't answer the question. Finally, I said, look, Ibanez told me you hit one in the trash can. Did you or didn't you? He said, all right, I hit one in the trash can. And it wasn't the only time that spring that he did it. This is how competitive he is. He has to hit a ball into a trash can. But I think he's the greatest number 27 ever. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And if anyone thinks these injuries has taken away his Hall of Fame career, you need to look at those numbers again.
What about number 28, the greatest player of all time to wear that number, from Ozzie to Oral? What do you got?
I got Bert Blyleven. He won 287 games, okay? He struck out 3,701 batters. That's the 5th most strikeouts in Major League history. He threw 60 shutouts. That's the 9th most ever. 60 shutouts. So different time, different era, different pitchers, but Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine together threw 60 shutouts exactly. And Bert Blyleven did that by himself. Had one of the great curveballs of all time and definitely deserving of the greatest number 28 ever.
All right, Dad, are we moving on to the Blue Jays? Best of all, Tim. I've really been anticipating learning about this player who I'm just learning played Major League Baseball.
Right.
Is that embarrassing?
Jeff, no, it's not embarrassing, Jeff. You weren't even born when this guy was really, really good. Now, look, there were great Blue Jays. This was not an easy choice. Roberto Alomar, for a short period, is the greatest Blue Jay ever, but didn't stay there long enough. Roy Halladay, very much in the discussion. Carlos Delgado, an amazing player. But I'm going with Dave Stieb, pitcher for the Blue Jays. He spent 15 years with the Blue Jays. He made 7 All-Star teams while he was there. He was drafted and developed by the Blue Jays. He was really the first star player that they ever had. He's the only Blue Jay ever to throw a no-hitter. In the decade of the 80s, the only pitcher that had more wins than him was Hall of Famer Jack Morris. And Dave Stieb had one of the great sliders that I've ever seen. He was a maniacal competitor, and I think baseball kind of has left him out of the discussion for certainly among the most underrated pitchers that we've ever seen. And this has always struck me. Right-handed pitcher, great slider. He shot a basketball with his left hand. You know?
Really?
Yeah. I've always been fascinated. You know how much I love ambidexterity.
So he's amphibious.
Yes, he can throw a ball underwater. He's amphibious, yes. So Dave Stieb, for me, is the greatest Blue Jay of all time, and we're doing this as a tribute to the Blue Jays, who are the hottest team in baseball as of right now.
All right, Dad. Do you have a Team Tim for us? These have been, and honestly, Dad, the biggest response from our family is the Team Tims. They absolutely love these. They always respond with theirs. And I'm going to come up with my all-music team next week.
Right.
But next week, just really fast, next week is the All-Star game, right? So we're going to do a couple All-Star specials. Tuesday night is the All-Star game, and then on Wednesday on the feed, we'll have Hall of Famer Chipper Jones. I mean, when you talk about the Hall of Fame, when you talk about the Atlanta Braves, when you talk about them hosting the All-Star game, that's the guy you got to get.
And I thought I knew Chipper Jones really well because I've interviewed him 1,000 times. He told at least 3 stories that I have never heard before.
Excited for Chipper, but what do we have for Team Tim today?
Okay, so as a tribute to Miguel Cairo, the new manager of the Washington Nationals,
That's right.
who, by the way, is a great baseball guy. I wouldn't be surprised if he kept that job in Washington for a long time. been around a lot of great managers in his time, a lot of great players in his time. I think he's perfectly suited for that team and what they're trying to do. So he is our second baseman.
Love that.
Our catcher is Benito Santiago. I was trying to go with all non-U.S. cities, but I couldn't find them all, so I did the best I could. Mike Napoli is the first baseman. I don't know if you pronounce the city in Italy as Napoli or Napoli, but what do you think it is?
Well, if they don't have a baseball team, you and I are pretty much helpless on figuring it out.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Kelly Paris is the third baseman. Houston Jimenez is our shortstop.
That's a double one right there.
Yes. Dallas Williams is one outfielder. Luis Medina, or Medina, whatever we're going to call it, is from Saudi Arabia. Leon Wagner, Leon or Leon is a city in Mexico.
Very nice.
And our pitching staff is Alex Madrid, Paul Moscow, spelled Moskau.
Love that.
Jose Lima,
Peru.
Rome Chambers.
Very good.
And Sydney, not spelled Sydney, but Sidney, Sydney Ponson. So that's our all cities team, and every one of these cities is huge. So I didn't just pick tiny cities. These are all like among the biggest cities in the world. And we started with Miguel Cairo because he's the new manager of the Nationals. And now we welcome in our dear friend, Bruce Adams, who is the founder and president of Bethesda Community Baseball Club. Bruce, this is Jeff Kirkchin. You've seen him since he was 10 years old. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, this is like a reunion from the birthday parties he used to have at Povich.
Oh, my God. We already talked about those. I mean, just right behind us is where we used to have pizza, and we would play catch. This is a huge part of my childhood.
So what it's all about, Mike Veck taught me fun is good, and that's what we try to do here at Shirley Povich Field.
Bruce, when did the idea come to you that we need to honor Walter Johnson, Shirley Povich, and get a collegiate baseball league to play here? When did that come to you?
It didn't come to me in that order. I was trying to figure out how to raise money to fix fields for kids, and I wasn't getting anywhere. And then our family was on a trip we were doing a book for Fodor's on family baseball vacations. And my son was 5 years old, so he went to the visiting team bullpen because they always gave him balls. And he's talking to them about this trip we'd taken all over America. And the guy says to me, summer college baseball. And all I could say was Cape Cod. That's all I knew. And the guy says, no, I played in the Shenandoah Valley last year. I said, you're pulling my leg. I'm a baseball fanatic. I live 90 minutes from the valley. Couldn't be true. Turned out we spent the next summer, my wife and I, we wrote a piece for the Washington Post Sunday magazine about the Shenandoah Valley League, and I just fell in love with it. It was two of my passions. It was community and baseball. And that's what summer college baseball is all about, is to give these guys a chance. You know, in college they play with those stupid metal bats. And so summer college baseball gives them a chance to play with the wood. That's what Major League Baseball wants to see. So it's a great opportunity for these guys to develop their talents. 25 of our guys who played here at Povich Field for the Big Train have made it to the major leagues. But the other part of it, the equation is community. You know, the historian Jacques Barzun said that if you want to understand America, you got to learn about baseball. And then he went on to say, but if you really want to learn about baseball, you got to see it at a small town kind of format. And so here at Povich Field, we've got a small ballpark, holds 700 people. We call it small town charm and big league talent.
Bruce, I want to ask you about something my dad will not bring up because he's the most humble man in the world. Talk about what Tim Kirkchin has. He has a plaque over there, but it comes with a program, and we're going to ignore my dad for a minute because I think this is really special and really cool in remembering my dad's amazing Hall of Fame baseball writing career.
How lucky are we at the Big Train to have a friend like Tim Kirkchin? I mean, your dad has been here every year. I go listen to the talk he gives to the Big Train players before the game when he comes each year. It is so inspiring.
Right.
He tells them, you're doing one of the hardest things you can do in sports. You've reached an incredible level, and you have a chance to go even further. So we adore Tim Kirkchin. Your dad, he does our fundraiser each winter. He comes out and sees the players and the fans each year. And so when we created a summer internship program. You know, it's cool on your resume to say Big Train intern, right?
Right.
But how cool is it to say Tim Kirchin, sports journalism fellow? I
That's
mean,
really
how
cool.
cool is that? So we got a beautiful plaque up on the wall right next to Mike Veck and Bill Veck, because our game operations interns are Veck fellows and our journalism interns are Kirchin fellows.
Well, it's really neat too, Dad, and I'm going to stop here, is the field is named after Shirley Povich, for goodness sake, who was a writer, right? And then we have the Tim Kirchin Fellows, which is so neat, and this is kind of funny. At Alabama, his dad, who I was named after, Jeff Kirchin, there's a Jeff Kirchin Teaching Award. So I remember Googling my name when, like, Google became a thing when I was 10, and I saw, who are these people winning a Jeff Kirchin Award, and what is that? Now they can say the Jeff Kirchin Teaching Award named after your dad, and a Tim Kirchin Fellow named after you, Dad.
And my father neglected to tell us that there was an award named
Is that
after
right?
him.
That's crazy.
Just the way
Yeah.
he was built.
Hey, well, how many full-life bronze sculptures of journalists have you seen?
Right.
We've got Shirley right over our shoulder here interviewing, with his pad and his pencil, interviewing the great Walter Johnson.
And they look it's an absolutely tremendous.
Toby Mendez, who did the sculptures of all the Oriole Hall of Famers at Camden Yards, who did Teammates at Fenway, who did Thurgood Marshall in Annapolis, did these fantastic sculptures here. My partner in building Povich Field was John Orsman, and John said he wanted this to be a living baseball history museum. So we have murals with the history of Walter Johnson and Shirley Povich. Now we have these sculptures. Behind us over our other shoulder, we have kind of a street sign that shows you where the 25 guys who played for Big Train made their major league debuts.
This is so cool.
Bruce, I'm telling you, when I go out and meet major league players, I talk to every one of them that has played here, and they have nothing but great things to say. They always say, make sure you said hi to Bruce for me. How does that make you feel, that Hunter Brown is pitching in the All-Star game and he asks about you every time I see him?
Thank you. These guys are unbelievable. So I'm trying to collect a couple of balls and get all their signatures on it. I've got the 13 now, but just to Hunter Brown, what a beautiful human being he is, and what an incredible career he's had. And he says that some of the change happened here with a little bit of tweaking and some growth and development, and that's just mind-blowing to me. I'm looking at Baseball America's top 100 players in the MLB that came out in whenever it was January and February. There's Logan Gilbert right near the top, and I'm like, wow, a Big Train player. And then there's Hunter, and we're putting Hunter Brown and Jordan Westberg in our Ripken Hall of Fame this year. They're both in that top 100, and it's just a thrill to be able to know these guys and know that they played here and that we had a little bit to do with their development.
Hi, Bruce. We got to let you go because you got things to do. But just tell us quickly, where did your love of baseball come from? When did it grab you?
So this is crazy. My dad grew up in Bethesda, and he had a friend whose dad was a baseball guy. And so when they were like 12 and 13 and 14, the dad picked my dad up and drove him down to Griffith Stadium to hang out with his son. And the dad was Walter Johnson.
No.
Wow.
Yes.
Way.
You don't know this story, Dad?
My gosh.
Is that...
Did you know that my dad went to Walter Johnson High School? It's a running joke.
Only knew that like 1,000 times.
Right. It's a running joke on the podcast now, right?
Wow. The last thing I want to say, though, is, these are difficult times, and summer baseball it's more than baseball. Baseball is our platform, but building a stronger community is our purpose. And this is a place that we need, these special places where people can come together, talk, enjoy themselves, have a good time across lines of difference. And Shirley Povich Field is one of those places.
Right. Absolutely, it is.
And it's such a thrill for me. Once a year, I get to throw out the first ball at the Big Train. We're going to do that on Thursday night. I can't wait.
Great. Thank you.
Thank
you, guys.
Bruce. And we end every show by saying to all of our listeners, we call them our family, and you're part of our family too. Thank you so much for being a part of our family, and come visit Povich Field for a game soon. Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks, guys.